Republicans and some Democrats wasting no time going after Obama's 2012 budget proposal, and President Obama wants people to have patience.
You guys are pretty impatient. If something doesn't happen today, then the assumption is it's just not going to happen. I mean, my goal here is to actually solve the problem. It's not to get a good headline on the first day.
So did the president punt on the budget, or is it a serious attempt to reduce the nation's deficit? Ohio Senator Rob Portman is the former director of the Office of Management and Budget under George W. Bush, and he's my guest now. Good morning to you, Senator.
Hey, Gretchen, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. So the president's response about having patience was in regard to the question about whether or not, or why he did not include any of the recommendations of the Debt Commission. Was that the appropriate response?
Well, I think people are impatient, and they deserve to be. The American people are rightly frustrated by the fact that we have the biggest deficit in the history of our country and the biggest debt ever. And the president puts out his vision for the next 10 years, and it says more of the same. So he's doubling the debt, not dealing with the deficit issue. And I think the impatience is understandable. He also said, I noticed there, that his goal was not to get a good headline the first day. He didn't get a good headline, even from papers around the country that have supported him. The Washington Post said that he ducked the issues, and that was kind of what most of the papers said, because he did not deal with the very challenge that he's laid out.
Quite possibly that's why he had a press conference yesterday to try.
I think it was, yeah. It was his first press conference of the year, I guess. It was kind of hastily called together. And what he said in the press conference, and what his budget director and others have said, is that in a sense, he's showing leadership by not putting anything in the budget. It's an interesting way to show leadership. But,
interesting.
Let's hope that this means that after the bad headlines and after the response that he's gotten from we Americans who are impatient to look for some results, that he will be able to sit down with Republicans and work things out on all the areas.
So some people are arguing that this was just a setup for the negotiation. But you were the former OMB director. I mean, you put together budgets. So how would you have done it differently?
Well, the last budget I put together was 4 years ago this week, and it was a balanced budget over 5 years. Now, admittedly, at that time, the budget deficit was far smaller. It was about 1/10 of what it is today. And we had some revenues coming in because the economy was growing. But the point is, you know, we laid out a program, including some reductions in some of the very popular and controversial entitlement programs. And we also laid out a program in terms of the annually appropriated spending, which is what this congressional debate is all about today. And, you know, that provided a little bit of a framework, a little bit of leadership. That's what we need right now.
All right, and that's exactly what Congressman Paul Ryan said yesterday, that we need the president to exude some of that leadership. We'll have to see what happens, Senator, in the coming days, and whether or not we'll see a budget summit of sorts between Republicans and Democrats.
That's what's needed,
Senator Rob Portman, thanks for being my guest.
Thanks for having me on.